The blizzard raged across the frozen alien plains, snow swirling like 1,000 tiny blades. The wind howled through the jagged cliffs, carrying whispers of danger, and the planet seemed alive, breathing frost and menace into every crevice. Buried deep beneath a thick snowdrift, 3 tiny forms stirred, alien infants born infertile, thought useless by their colony, abandoned and left to die. Above them, a human explorer trudged through the endless white wasteland, his breath steaming in the freezing air. Every step sunk into the snow, each movement an effort against the biting cold. His eyes scanned the horizon, looking for signs of life or shelter. Though nothing should survive here yet then, a faint sound reached his ears, soft, almost imperceptible, a tiny whimper, a call for help. Curiosity and instinct pushed him forward. Digging frantically through the icy layers, snow shifted beneath his hands, cold and sharp, as if the planet itself was testing him. He uncovered the first of the sisters, her tiny body shivering, almost transparent in the weak light. Her eyes flickered open, confused and frightened. Staring up at this strange creature who dared to save her, the human felt a pang of urgency, pulling the second sister free, her cry piercing the storm. Then the third, smallest and weakest, slipped from the snow's clutch, barely breathing. Yet as he wrapped them in his coat and checked for life, he realized that despite their fragility, there was a spark of survival within them, a small but stubborn will to live. The wind threatened to throw them back into the snow, forcing him to shield them with his body. Each gust felt like it could crush them, yet the human pressed forward. Each movement carefully calculated, every second counted, every step a battle against nature itself. The snow seemed endless, a white prison, yet he refused to surrender. Finally, he found a hollow in the rocks, a small cave that would give them temporary shelter. Inside, the wind was muffled, the cold less cruel, and the sisters huddled together, trembling. The human rubbed their tiny limbs, trying to warm them, his own hands numb from the cold. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. Survival here required more than warmth. It demanded intelligence, courage, and patience. As the sisters slowly began to stir, their alien features became clearer. Strange markings on their skin, patterns that shimmered faintly even in the dim light. Their eyes, large and luminous, held confusion and fear, but also something else, curiosity. The spark of intelligence waiting to emerge. The human studied them, understanding that these beings, though abandoned, might hold untapped potential. Outside, the storm continued to rage, snow piling higher against the cave entrance. The human realized they had little time. He needed to secure food, water, and perhaps find a way to keep predators at bay. The sisters clung to him instinctively, their small hands gripping his coat, trust forming silently, a bond of necessity that would grow into loyalty. Hours passed, the blizzard showing no sign of relenting. Yet within the cave a fragile calm settled, broken only by the occasional whimper or murmur from the sisters. The human spoke softly, words of encouragement in his own tongue, knowing they could not understand. Yet somehow the tone, the rhythm, the sound of life seemed to reach them, calming their fears. As night fell, the snow outside turned from white to gray. Shadows stretching long across the frozen plains, the human kept watch, senses alert, knowing that alien predators, curious scavengers, or worse, might be drawn to the warmth and life within the cave. Each rustle of snow, each shadow moving against the dim light, raised his heart rate, yet he remained steady. A protector against an indifferent world. Then, something unusual happened. The smallest sister reached out, touching his hand, her fingers surprisingly strong for her size. Her eyes locked with his, and in that silent gaze, something passed, a connection, a promise of trust and reliance. The human smiled faintly, knowing that this was more than survival. It was the beginning of a partnership, a journey neither species had expected. He settled them on makeshift bedding of rocks and cloth, adjusting his own coat to cover them. The cold was relentless, but inside the cave, warmth was more than temperature. It was the growing bond between human and alien, between the abandoned sisters and the one who dared to defy nature to save them. Outside, the blizzard continued to scream, indifferent to the fragile lives it had tried to crush. Yet inside, a tiny flame of hope burned, fragile but alive. The human knew that the world outside was dangerous, full of unknowns. Yet for the first time he allowed himself to hope and to plan, for tomorrow would bring new challenges, and they would face them together. And as the wind howled against the cave, the three alien sisters, thought dead by the world, slept safely beside the human, their lives intertwined, a silent promise of survival, courage, and the remarkable resilience of life. And somewhere deep in the snow, the universe seemed to pause, watching, waiting, for the story of the human and the sisters to unfold. The blizzard outside intensified, snowflakes stabbing through the air like tiny shards of glass. The human tightened his grip on the three alien sisters, guiding them deeper into the cave. Each step was cautious, measured, as he scanned for any sign of predators or hidden dangers. The faint glow from the sisters' skin illuminated the walls, casting strange, dancing shadows. He placed them near a small alcove, partially sheltered from the wind, and began examining their condition. Their breathing was weak but steady, tiny chests rising and falling in unison. The human realized he needed to act quickly. The storm would not wait, and neither would the harsh alien world. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the cave entrance, freezing him in place. The human's eyes darted toward the sound, scanning the shadows. His heart pounded as two massive snow predators emerged, creatures unlike anything he had ever seen. Their fur was frost-covered, claws sharp as jagged ice, and eyes glowing with hunger. Instinctively, the human grabbed a jagged rock, positioning himself between the sisters and the predators. He knew fighting would be risky. His strength alone could not match them, yet running would leave the sisters exposed. He needed a plan, fast. Each second counted as the predators circled, their growls growing louder, using the glowing markings on the sisters' skin. He realized they could reflect light if positioned carefully. He instructed the sisters to move together, creating patterns that caught the predators' attention. Confusing their senses, the creatures hesitated, swiping at illusions of light, allowing the human to lead the sisters further into the cave. The predators lunged again, snow and ice flying in all directions, yet the human used the terrain expertly, guiding them over uneven rocks and narrow ledges. Each leap, each movement calculated to outmaneuver the predators. The sisters, sensing his control and courage, moved instinctively with him, their trust in him growing with every passing moment. Finally, he reached a deeper section of the cave, a natural chamber shielded from the storm. The predators paused at the entrance, unable or unwilling to follow, their growls fading into the distance, leaving only the sound of the storm outside. The human exhaled slowly, relief washing over him, yet he knew this was only a temporary reprieve. Inside the chamber, he allowed himself a moment to study the sisters more closely. They were not just fragile infants, as their colony had assumed. Their intelligence was apparent, small gestures hinting at understanding, at the ability to learn and adapt. The human smiled faintly, a plan forming in his mind, a way to ensure their survival. Hours passed. The storm outside relentless, and the human taught the sisters small lessons: how to recognize danger, how to move without making noise, how to react instinctively to threats. Each lesson was small yet critical, laying the foundation for a future where they could defend themselves. The sisters absorbed the lessons with surprising speed, their alien minds quick and adaptable. Then a sudden rumble shook the cave, dust and small rocks falling from above. The human's instincts screamed that something larger was approaching, something intelligent and dangerous. He grabbed the sisters, pulling them closer, and peered into the darkness, eyes wide with fear yet determined. He prepared for whatever came next. From the shadows emerged an alien patrol, hunting for the lost sisters, their armor glinting, weapons drawn, scanning every corner of the cave. The human realized they had little chance of fighting them directly, yet retreating was equally dangerous. He needed to use his wits, the environment, and the sisters' emerging abilities to survive. He whispered instructions quickly, guiding the sisters to move silently behind rocks and stalagmites. Using shadows and debris, he created illusions, drawing the patrol's attention away. The patrol moved cautiously, unsure of where the movement came from, their frustration growing. Each heartbeat was tense, each second a test of strategy and nerve. Suddenly, one patrol member noticed a shimmer from the sisters' markings and raised a weapon. The human acted instantly, hurling a rock that ricocheted off the cave wall, striking a support beam, sending rubble crashing down. The patrol ducked, confused, buying precious moments for the human and the sisters to slip past. They moved deeper into the cave system, shadows stretching long, walls twisting, creating a labyrinth of hiding spots and vantage points. The human's mind raced, calculating every turn, every obstacle, predicting the patrol's movements before they happened. The sisters followed closely. Instinctively, their trust in him absolute. Finally, they reached a small underground stream. Water trickling through rocks, a place to rest, to hydrate, and to plan their next move. The human realized that their survival depended on more than just escape. It required cleverness, teamwork, and understanding the alien world around them. As they rested, the sisters began interacting more. Their gestures more coordinated. Communicating silently, the human watched, impressed by their resilience and growing intelligence. Even in the harshest conditions, life found a way, and these sisters were proof. Outside, the storm raged on, the patrol regrouping, and unknown dangers still lurking. Yet inside the hidden chamber, a fragile hope took root, a spark of courage, and a plan for survival began to form. The human knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, more predators, more alien threats. But he also knew they were not helpless together. Human and sisters had survived the storm, outsmarted predators and evaded hunters. Their bond solidified through fear, trust, and courage. The snow-covered world outside remained deadly, indifferent, but inside the cave a tiny light of hope burned, promising that survival, cunning, and determination could defy even the harshest odds. And as the human settled beside the sisters, his gaze on the snowstorm outside, he knew one thing for certain. Their journey had only begun, and the universe, vast and dangerous, was about to test them in ways no one could have predicted. The next day dawned gray and cold, the storm having passed but leaving the snow-covered plains more dangerous than ever. The human stepped outside the cave, scanning the horizon carefully. Every shadow and ridge a potential threat. He returned to the sisters, who had awakened and were observing him with cautious, curious eyes, their small bodies huddled together. But their gazes showed intelligence, awareness, and a growing trust in him. He spoke softly, explaining in gestures and simple sounds, trying to teach them the basics of survival. The sisters mimicked his movements, their reactions surprisingly fast, almost instinctive. It became clear to the human that though the colony had considered them worthless, these beings were far from weak, their minds were quick, and their senses sharper than any human he had encountered. As they ventured cautiously into the open, the sisters began to reveal small, unexpected abilities. Subtle movements in their hands created faint ripples in the snow, almost like vibrations, and their eyes glowed faintly when focused. The human observed closely, realizing that these abilities could be used to detect predators or navigate the dangerous terrain. Suddenly a shadow flickered across the snowy ground, moving faster than any predator they had seen. The human froze, instincts screaming danger, and gestured for the sisters to stay low. They crouched behind a ridge, blending into the snow, their markings shimmering faintly, creating an optical illusion that hid their presence. The shadow approached closer, revealing itself to be a reconnaissance drone from the alien colony. Scanning for the missing sisters, the human knew they had little time, and quickly guided them to a narrow crevasse in the cliffs, a place too small for the drone to enter. Their hearts raced as the drone scanned the area, light sweeping across the snow, sensing movement. Yet it could not penetrate the sisters' hiding, and after tense moments it moved on, leaving them in relative safety inside the crevasse. The sisters began exploring, their alien instincts guiding them through small tunnels and hidden chambers. The human followed, realizing that the planet itself had secrets, and knowledge of these hidden paths could mean life or death. The sisters' small hands traced the walls, feeling vibrations, sensing subtle changes in the rocks and ice, revealing paths even he could not detect. Hours passed, and the human decided to test their abilities further, placing small obstacles and distractions in their path. Watching how they reacted, learned, and adapted, the sisters moved with precision, their understanding of the environment far surpassing what he had expected. Even in silence, they communicated with subtle gestures, forming a bond of teamwork and strategy. Suddenly, the sound of distant screams echoed through the crevasse. Chilling and urgent, the human stiffened, recognizing the voices of alien hunters. They were closing in, their weapons cutting through the snow like deadly streaks. The sisters instinctively huddled behind him, their eyes wide but focused, their markings glowing brighter as their abilities seemed to amplify in response to danger. The human realized they had to move quickly, using the tunnels and crevasses to their advantage. He led them through a twisting path, each turn more precarious than the last. Snow and ice threatened to collapse overhead, and the echoing footsteps of hunters grew louder, suspense mounted with every heartbeat, the tension almost unbearable. Yet the sisters followed without hesitation, their trust absolute. At a sharp bend, the human stopped suddenly, pointing toward a faintly glowing symbol on the cave wall. The sisters' eyes fixed on it immediately, and one reached out, touching the marking, which responded with a pulse of energy, illuminating a hidden exit. The human realized this was an ancient mechanism, designed to guide or protect, and the sisters had instinctively activated it. The hunters were closer now, their voices shouting commands in alien tones. The human and sisters moved swiftly, following the illuminated path through the winding tunnels. The walls themselves seemed alive, responding to the sisters' presence, pulses of energy lighting their way, creating illusions and obstacles to slow their pursuers. Suddenly, a section of the tunnel collapsed behind them. Blocking the path, the hunter's advance was slowed, but the human knew it was only temporary. The sisters' abilities became more apparent as they sensed weak spots, finding alternate routes through narrow passages that even he could barely fit through. Each decision, each movement heightened the suspense, keeping their lives balanced on a knife's edge. Finally, they reached a hidden cavern, warm and partially shielded from the world outside. The human allowed himself a brief moment to breathe, realizing how far they had come, yet he knew the journey was far from over. The alien colony would not give up, and the sisters' survival still hung by a thread. As they rested, the smallest sister reached out, touching the human's hand with surprising strength, her eyes conveying gratitude and something more, a silent promise that they would fight together, that their bond was more than survival. It was now mutual trust and respect. The human nodded subtly, understanding that the sisters were no longer helpless infants but partners in the battle for life. Outside, the storm had passed completely, leaving an eerie calm over the snow-covered world. Yet the quiet was deceptive as predators, alien hunters, and unknown dangers still lurked, watching, waiting, and plotting to strike. The human knew that the next challenge would require more than just instinct and courage. It would demand strategy, cleverness, and the growing abilities of the alien sisters. And as the three sisters huddled close, their small bodies glowing faintly, the human felt a surge of hope. For in the harshest environment, against the cruelest odds, they had survived together. Their journey had only just begun, and the universe, vast and perilous, was about to test them in ways they could never imagine. The hidden cavern was quiet, shadows stretching across the walls as the three sisters explored every corner, their glowing markings reflected off the icy surfaces. Casting strange, shimmering patterns, the human observed silently, realizing that the sisters were not just learning from him. They were learning from the world itself, adapting, understanding, and growing in ways he could not yet predict. He watched as the middle sister lifted her small hand, sending a subtle vibration through the icy floor. The sound echoed faintly and nearby rocks shifted slightly. As if responding to her presence, the human's eyes widened, realizing they could interact with their environment in ways far beyond ordinary creatures. Their abilities were awakening, triggered by both instinct and the need to survive. Outside, the alien colony had not forgotten the missing sisters. Patrols scoured the snow-covered plains. Drones scanned for heat signatures, and word of their survival had spread like fire through the ranks. The human knew it was only a matter of time before the hunters discovered their hidden location. Every second of peace was temporary, a fragile bubble in a world ready to crush them. He began teaching the sisters more deliberately, showing them how to use their emerging powers, how to manipulate vibrations, sense danger, and create distractions. They absorbed the lessons quickly, their small minds connecting patterns faster than he could have imagined. Suspense built as each attempt was tested. The slightest misstep could reveal them to the relentless hunters outside. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the cavern, dust falling from the ceiling. The sisters froze instinctively, eyes wide with alarm. The human peered into the shadows, muscles tense, as a massive snow creature emerged. More terrifying than anything they had encountered before. Its fur was covered in frost and jagged teeth gleamed under the faint light. The human acted instantly, signaling the sisters to stay back. But he noticed their instincts had sharpened. Their bodies moved almost in unison, reacting to the creature's movements, anticipating its attacks. The middle sister extended her hand, sending vibrations through the cavern floor, causing the creature to stumble slightly, and the human seized the moment, throwing debris to distract it further. The creature roared, a sound that shook the walls. but the sisters' combined abilities began to affect it. The youngest sister glowed brighter, her eyes focused, and small ice shards lifted from the ground, swirling in patterns that confused and slowed the predator. The human realized their powers were growing exponentially, fueled by fear, necessity, and raw survival instinct. After a tense confrontation, the creature finally retreated, leaving the human and sisters shaken but unharmed. Each breath they took was heavy, hearts pounding from the near-death encounter. Suspense remained high as they knew bigger threats awaited, yet they had survived, and that survival had forged a stronger bond between them. As night fell, the human guided the sisters deeper into the cave system, discovering tunnels that led to hidden chambers filled with ancient alien technology. The walls bore strange symbols glowing faintly. Resonating with the sisters' abilities, it became clear that the cavern was not just a refuge, it was a training ground, a place where the sisters' powers could be honed. And the human realized they had stumbled upon a secret the alien colony had long forgotten. Hours passed, and the human taught them to use the environment strategically, setting traps, creating illusions, and communicating silently through gestures and vibrations. The sisters adapted quickly, learning not only to defend themselves but to anticipate threats. Each lesson increased their confidence, their abilities becoming sharper, their movements more precise, and suspense built as the next danger seemed inevitable. Suddenly, a faint light appeared at the cavern entrance. Alien hunters approaching, weapons ready. Their voices echoed, shouting orders, scanning for heat signatures. The humans signaled the sisters to hide, their bodies blending seamlessly into the shadows, markings glowing faintly, creating optical illusions that confused the hunters' sensors. The hunters advanced cautiously, unaware of the sisters' growing abilities. The human moved silently, placing obstacles and creating subtle distractions, leading the patrol away from the sisters. Each step was a gamble, each movement a test of nerve. Suspense reached its peak as the hunters closed in. Yet the sisters remained hidden, their trust in the human absolute. Then, the youngest sister stepped forward, her small hand glowing brighter than ever, sending vibrations through the icy floor that caused a section of the cavern wall to collapse. Blocking the patrol's path and buying precious time, the human realized they had crossed a threshold. The sisters were no longer passive, fragile beings but active participants in their survival. As the patrol retreated, confused and blocked, the human and sisters took a moment to catch their breath. Each heartbeat echoed the tension they had survived. The cavern felt alive, responding to the sisters' abilities, and the human knew that their journey was far from over. The alien colony would not rest, and the dangers outside were only increasing. The sisters huddled close, their small bodies glowing faintly, and the human placed a reassuring hand on each of them. Trust and understanding had grown beyond words, creating a bond stronger than any language. The universe outside was still perilous, yet inside the cavern, a fragile hope burned bright, a spark of courage, intelligence, and determination. And as the human gazed into the dark tunnels ahead, he realized that the sisters' powers were not only a tool for survival, but a key to changing the balance of their world. The alien colony had underestimated them, and now, together, human and sisters would prove that survival, cunning, and courage could overcome even the most formidable enemies. The next morning, the cavern was silent, the sisters resting while their eyes flickered with soft light. Their small hands moved restlessly, practicing gestures and vibrations that the human had taught them. The storm outside had passed completely, leaving the snow-covered plains open and exposed, a perfect hunting ground for alien patrols. The human studied the maps he had drawn in the snow, tracing potential routes to avoid detection. He realized that moving during the day would be dangerous, yet staying put too long was equally risky. They had to make their next move, or the alien hunters would find them, and the stakes had never been higher. Suddenly, the faint sound of mechanical hums reached them. Distant but unmistakable, alien drones were scanning the area. Moving methodically across the snow, the humans signaled the sisters to prepare, their bodies instinctively responding, markings glowing brighter as their powers surged. Suspense built in the cavern, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. As the drones approached, the human guided the sisters to a narrow tunnel hidden behind frozen stalagmites. Their small bodies moved silently, avoiding detection. The youngest sister extended her hand, creating subtle vibrations that distorted the drone's sensors, allowing them to slip past. The human watched, amazed at their growing abilities. realizing they were becoming more than just survivors. Outside, the alien patrols advanced with precision. Following the trails of the human and sisters, their voices shouted commands, weapons scanning, each step filled with menace. The human knew that confrontation was inevitable, and the cavern offered only temporary safety. Every movement was tense, suspense mounting as the hunters drew closer. They reached a larger chamber, the walls lined with ancient alien markings, glowing faintly as the sisters approached. The human realized that these markings could amplify their abilities if used correctly. He instructed them quickly, and the sisters responded instinctively, sending vibrations through the chamber that created illusions. Confusing the approaching hunters, the patrol entered cautiously, unaware that the sisters' powers were already working against them. The youngest sister focused, her eyes glowing intensely, sending pulses of energy that caused the walls to shift, creating barriers and false pathways. The human guided them through the chaos. Each step precise, each breath measured, suspense building with every second. Suddenly, one hunter noticed movement and raised a weapon. The human acted immediately, hurling a rock that ricocheted off the chamber walls, striking a support beam, sending debris crashing down, blocking the hunter's line of sight. The sisters moved quickly, creating vibrations that further disoriented the patrol, their combined abilities forming a shield of sorts. The hunters advanced cautiously, unsure of where the sisters were hiding. The human led them through narrow tunnels and hidden alcoves, using the environment strategically. Each movement was calculated, each decision a test of nerve. Suspense reached a peak as the hunter's frustration grew, and the human knew that one mistake could cost them everything. At a critical junction, the middle sister extended her hand, sending a powerful pulse that triggered an ancient mechanism. A hidden door swung open, revealing a passageway filled with glowing energy. The human and sisters slipped through just as the hunters caught sight of the chamber. Too late to follow, suspense shifted into relief. Yet the tension remained, for the unknown passage held both opportunity and danger. Inside the passage, they discovered remnants of an ancient alien civilization, technology and structures designed to manipulate energy and the environment. The human realized that this place could be a sanctuary, but also a weapon if used wisely. He taught the sisters quickly, showing them how to interact with the technology, how to harness their abilities in new ways. Hours passed as they explored, each discovery increasing their confidence. The sisters' abilities grew stronger, more precise, each pulse and vibration now controlled with skill. The human felt a mixture of pride and awe, knowing that they had become more than just vulnerable infants. They were fighters, strategists, and allies. Then a sudden tremor shook the passage, dust and small rocks falling from above. The human froze, signaling the sisters to be silent, their eyes wide, hearts pounding, as a massive shadow moved at the entrance. Alien hunters, larger in number and heavily armed, had discovered the passage, suspense building to unbearable heights. The human whispered instructions, guiding the sisters to activate the technology around them. Energy pulses surged through the walls, creating barriers, traps, and illusions. The hunters advanced, unaware that the very environment was now working against them. The sisters moved instinctively, their small hands glowing, manipulating energy with precision, suspense intensifying with every heartbeat. The confrontation escalated, the hunters firing, energy pulses deflecting their attacks, debris flying as the ancient mechanisms responded to the sisters' powers. The human dodged and guided them, teaching them to anticipate, react, and survive. Each second was a life-or-death gamble, the suspense nearly suffocating. Yet they moved with unity and determination. Finally, after a tense struggle, the hunters were forced to retreat, unable to overcome the combined abilities of human and sisters. The passage was quiet once more, dust settling, energy pulses fading. Yet the human knew this victory was temporary. The alien colony would regroup, plan, and hunt them again. The sisters, however, had gained confidence, their abilities now a formidable force. As night fell, they settled in the sanctuary, the glowing walls casting eerie but protective light. The human placed his hands on each sister, a silent reassurance. Trust and understanding deepened through shared danger. Suspense lingered, the outside world still threatening. Yet inside, hope burned brighter, a fragile but powerful flame of survival. And as the human gazed into the dark tunnels, the sisters close by, he knew that the next chapter of their journey would test them more than ever. The alien colony would not stop. and the universe itself seemed poised to challenge their courage, intelligence, and resilience. Yet for now they had survived together, stronger than before. The hidden sanctuary was quiet, almost eerily so, the faint hum of ancient alien machinery echoing through the tunnels. The human watched the sisters carefully, noticing subtle changes in their posture and gestures. They had grown stronger, more aware, and their abilities now pulsed with a controlled, deliberate energy. Each flicker of light from their markings seemed synchronized, a silent rhythm only they understood outside. The alien colony had intensified their search, sending advanced drones and heavily armed patrols across the snow-covered plains. Their determination to capture the sisters was clear, and the human knew that sooner or later, confrontation was inevitable. Suspense hung thick in the sanctuary, each passing second a potential countdown to disaster. He began training the sisters more aggressively, pushing them to experiment with their abilities, to manipulate vibrations, light, and energy in new ways. The sisters responded with instinctive precision, creating illusions, traps, and decoys, each movement perfectly timed. The human marveled at their rapid progress, realizing that they were no longer merely survivors. They were a formidable team, capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering their enemies. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the sanctuary, the ground trembling beneath them. The human froze, instincts screaming danger, and the sisters' markings glowed brightly, reacting to the approaching threat. A massive patrol of alien hunters had discovered their location, their footsteps crunching in the snow outside, weapons drawn, scanning for any sign of life. The humans signaled the sisters to hide and prepare, their bodies slipping into shadows, blending perfectly with the glowing machinery. Their small hands moved in precise gestures, sending pulses through the walls, activating mechanisms that created barriers, false paths, and distractions. The hunters advanced cautiously, unaware that the environment itself had become a weapon, suspense rising with every step they took. One hunter shouted, sensing a shimmer in the air, and fired a weapon that struck the ground near the sisters, sending shards of ice flying. The human guided the sisters, their bodies moving in unison, creating vibrations that deflected attacks and caused the floor to shift beneath the hunters. Each pulse of energy they emitted was strategic, a perfect combination of instinct and training, keeping them one step ahead. Suddenly, the youngest sister stepped forward, her eyes glowing intensely, sending a powerful energy wave that caused a section of the wall to collapse, blocking the hunter's path. The human realized that this marked a turning point. The sisters were no longer just hiding. They were actively shaping the battlefield, suspense peaking as the hunters struggled to adapt. The middle sister, sensing danger from another direction, created illusions that made the hunters see multiple false images of the sisters. Confusing their senses, the human moved alongside them, guiding and coordinating, every action deliberate, every decision critical. The hunters fired blindly, their confusion growing, yet the human and sisters remained unscathed, their trust and coordination perfect. Suddenly, a louder rumble shook the sanctuary, and the ceiling began to crack, debris falling. The human realized that the sanctuary itself was unstable, possibly a trap set long ago. He shouted instructions to the sisters, guiding them through narrow passages and safe zones, their powers now fully integrated with the environment, creating a moving shield that deflected falling rocks and energy blasts. The hunters, realizing they were being outmaneuvered, regrouped and advanced with more aggression, but the human and sisters anticipated each move, using the sanctuary's mechanisms to create deadly traps, activating energy pulses that sent hunters tumbling or frozen in place temporarily. Each encounter increased the suspense, the stakes higher than ever, yet they moved with confidence, their bond unbreakable. Finally, after a tense and exhausting confrontation, the hunters were forced to retreat, their numbers dwindling, their weapons damaged. The human and sisters took a moment to catch their breath, hearts racing yet triumphant. The youngest sister touched the human's hand, their silent communication a bond forged through shared danger and strategy. Suspense slowly giving way to relief. As night fell, the sanctuary glowed with soft, protective light. The human studied the sisters, realizing how far they had come. Their abilities now rivaled the hunters themselves, and their understanding of the environment made them nearly unstoppable. Yet he knew this was only temporary. The alien colony would adapt, and new challenges were inevitable. Suspense lingering like a shadow over their moment of calm, he guided the sisters to a deeper chamber, discovering ancient alien devices capable of amplifying their powers. The sisters' markings pulsed in response, and the human realized that with this technology, they could not only survive but possibly turn the tide against the alien colony. Suspense mixed with hope as he began teaching them how to harness the devices, preparing them for the battles that lay ahead outside. The snow-covered world remained harsh and indifferent, predators and patrols still active. Yet inside the sanctuary, the human and sisters had become a force, a strategic unit capable of outsmarting, outmaneuvering, and overpowering threats. Each day brought new challenges, each night a moment of tense preparation for the next confrontation, suspense constantly building. And as the human watched the sisters practice their abilities, glowing and moving in perfect harmony, he knew that the final test was approaching, a challenge that would demand every ounce of their strength, courage, and intelligence. The alien colony would not stop, and the universe itself seemed ready to test them in ways they could never imagine. Yet together they were prepared, unstoppable, and ready for whatever came next. The sanctuary had never felt so tense, shadows stretching like fingers across the walls as the alien colony's full force approached. The human and the three sisters stood together, their eyes glowing, bodies tense, the ancient devices pulsating with energy that amplified the sisters' powers. Every heartbeat echoed suspense, a rhythm of impending confrontation. The human studied the maps and pathways within the sanctuary, knowing there was only one chance to survive. They could not outrun the colony forever, and the battle would test every skill, every instinct. Every ounce of courage they had gained, the sisters understood instinctively, their small bodies vibrating with energy, ready for the ultimate test. Outside, alien ships hovered, scanning beams slicing through the snow. Patrols of hunters advanced, their weapons gleaming and deadly. Every movement was calculated, every step a threat. Suspense reached its peak as the human and sisters prepared for the confrontation. Knowing that failure meant death, the human signaled the sisters, and together they activated the sanctuary's ancient mechanisms. Energy pulses surged through the walls, creating barriers, traps, and illusions. The hunters fired blindly, their sensors confused, their strategies failing against the sisters' combined powers. Each pulse, each movement increased the suspense, the outcome uncertain. Suddenly, the youngest sister stepped forward, her small form radiating an intense glow. She sent a powerful wave of vibrations through the sanctuary, causing sections of the walls to shift. Collapsing passages and blocking the hunters, the human guided her, coordinating their movements, each step calculated. Suspense building to a fever pitch, the middle sister created multiple illusions, appearing in several places at once, confusing the alien patrols completely. The hunters fired at shadows, their frustration growing. The human and sisters moved like phantoms, striking, dodging, and manipulating the environment, each moment more suspenseful than the last. The oldest sister tapped into the devices, her hands glowing as energy flowed through her, amplifying the sanctuary itself. Walls shifted, floors vibrated, and hidden traps activated automatically. The hunters were forced to retreat again, but reinforcements were incoming, larger, stronger, more determined, suspense thickening with every breath. The human realized that they needed to end the threat, not just evade it. He led the sisters to the central chamber, where the most powerful device stood, ancient and glowing. Its energy resonated with the sisters' powers, ready to unleash a force that could turn the tide. The sisters placed their hands on the device, and the sanctuary pulsed in response, suspense climbing to unbearable heights. Outside, the colony's command ship hovered, scanning the area, sending orders in alien tones. The hunters were reorganizing, unaware of the trap that awaited them. The human and sisters prepared for the final strike, their synchronization perfect, every pulse, every vibration timed with precision, suspense and anticipation almost tangible. Then, as the hunters advanced, the sisters activated the device, sending waves of energy rippling through the sanctuary and beyond. Snow and ice twisted, illusions multiplied, barriers formed spontaneously, and the hunters were thrown into chaos. The human directed the sisters, guiding the energy, creating zones where hunters could not pass. Suspense peaking as every second counted. Some hunters tried to advance through the illusions, but the environment itself now worked against them. Ice shards formed, pulsing energy trapped them, walls shifted, and the hunters were separated. Their communications scrambled, their weapons misfiring. The human and sisters moved like shadows, exploiting every weakness, suspense reaching a fever pitch. The youngest sister concentrated, sending a focused pulse that disarmed the remaining hunters, while the middle sister amplified illusions to drive them further into confusion. The oldest sister maintained control over the sanctuary's central device, manipulating energy with precision. The human coordinated their moves, a perfect unit. Suspense and excitement blending into unstoppable momentum. Finally, after a tense and exhausting battle, the hunters retreated completely, their ships pulling back, their patrols scattered and defeated. The human and sisters stood together, glowing and breathing heavily. Victorious yet wary, suspense gave way to relief. But the danger had not vanished entirely. The alien colony would not forget. But for now they had survived triumphant and stronger. The human looked at the sisters, pride and awe mixing with exhaustion. Their journey from helpless infants buried in snow to powerful beings capable of controlling the battlefield was complete. Yet he knew it was only the beginning of a larger war. Suspense lingered, a shadow of future challenges. But hope now burned brightly in their hearts as the sanctuary pulsed with energy. The sisters touched the human's hands, a silent promise of trust, unity, and courage. They had become more than allies. They were family, fighters, and strategists, prepared for whatever the universe could throw at them. The snow outside was quiet once more, but the human knew the story was far from over. Suspense replaced by determination, and as the human gazed into the horizon, the sisters by his side, their glowing forms reflecting in the icy walls, he realized that together they could face anything. That intelligence, courage, and unity could defy even the most relentless enemies. The universe awaited them, vast, dangerous, and full of secrets, yet nothing could break the bond forged in snow, danger, and survival. In that moment, the human and sisters stood victorious, not just surviving, but thriving, suspense and danger behind them, hope and power ahead. Their journey had transformed them, and the story of the three alien sisters and the human who saved them would echo across the universe. A tale of courage, trust, and unstoppable determination.